as a business owner, find myself making things complex sometimes rather than making them simple.
The goal is clarity. If things are clear, people understand what they're supposed to do, when they're supposed to do it, how they're supposed to do it.
There's three things that I think cause business owners to make things complex. And I think you're going to agree with these, but I could be wrong.
All I can say is complexity is extra steps, extra cost, extra time, period.
Expert advice, practical tips, real-life stories. Have less stress, more time, and more money in your business. Welcome to the Cashflow Contractor.
Martin, we're off schedule. We're recording on a Tuesday afternoon.
I know.
Isn't it throwing you off?
Well, I was thinking I was in the Southern Hemisphere or something. It's completely different.
It feels
It's the
so
wrong
weird to me
day and
too.
the wrong time.
Yeah. Okay, so we're recording because I'm going to be on vacation when we typically record. Speaking of being on vacation, and a great article from Michael Girdley, episode 200 of the Cashflow Contractor. Really great guy. He wrote an article basically talking about how CEO goes on vacation for 6 weeks. And it's like a big moment. He's a small business owner, going to see if things break, going to see what happens, And nothing broke while he was gone. Everything went okay. But what he realized is that while he was gone, things got more complex inside his business, right? Basically, people started making things more complex to be able to justify their job or justify a new hire or whatever it is. And it got me thinking that we should do a episode on this because I myself, as a business owner, find myself making things complex sometimes rather than making them simple. And in the article, Gurley talks about how our job as owners is to make things as simple as possible, which I believe falls in line with Traction. Gino Wickham?
Gene Wickham? Yeah, Traction.
Yeah, Traction. About making everything as not as complex as possible, as simple as possible. So I thought we could just have a discussion about it.
Sure.
So I get why employees might want to make things complex. And I actually see this right now a lot with AI. Some employees are resistant to implementing AI in the business. They want to keep the process AI free, where it's technically more complex. I have to put in data entry for 3 hours versus AI doing it in 30 seconds because I would lose my job if I didn't do that. I think my theory is a lot of times the business owners will make things complex to justify, really, it's not just to justify their job as the owner or whatever, but it's actually this idea of perfectionism and this maybe as a stalling practice to be able to say, like, I don't know, they don't have to jump into something they don't like doing, like maybe getting into financials or getting into how to do marketing better or, leveling up where they feel uncomfortable. Maybe there's some head trash around like, I can't do that, or I don't feel safe, or whatever it is. So I say all of that. I don't know what the question is. I guess, what is your thought?
Well, interesting that you don't know what the question is yet. The goal, I think, is clarity. Right? I mean, that's the measuring stick. I don't want to say that's perfection, but that's high up on the scale. If things are clear, people understand what they're supposed to do, when they're supposed to do it, how they're supposed to do it, and who is ultimately responsible. So clarity is the goal, not simple. It just so happens that simple happens to be one of the hallmarks of clarity. Generally.
Right.
I mean, I think there are Occam's razor and all that stuff. You know Occam's razor?
I do. Can you give it to our listeners?
Yeah. He says that if you have two things would explain a situation, the simpler of them is the correct one. Right? And I could probably think of a good example, but it would be too complex for me to think of that. So anyway, anything that takes it away from clarity. Now, why would people, I think the premise here for the discussion was when the boss goes away. Well, sometimes the boss wants it complicated. I don't. I think most that I work with don't. And I think something else Gridley said was when the boss goes away for that 2-week vacation, he comes back and finds that things were running, but the employees made things too complex. And so the question is, why did they do that? I noticed that he says that part of it is if it takes more time, you can make more money, right? Well, there's no doubt that people do that.
Yeah.
But I don't think everybody does that.
Yeah.
I think that complexity, you don't have to make it complex to make more money. Just do it more slowly, right? But the people who look at complexity or take a job and make it more complex, it tells me it's a sign of confusion. In other words, a lack of, it could be lots of things, but a sign of confusion. I'm uncertain what I'm really supposed to be doing here. False step this way, maybe no, maybe I need to go back, false step that way. So I don't know people that intentionally do that. I'm sure there are some, but that's really not it's a lack of us imparting clarity so that people knew what they're supposed to do in the detail and have the means
Okay.
to do it.
So why do you think business owners, do you see instances where business owners make it more complex, not just employees, but business owners?
Yes, but not purposely.
Okay.
If you don't have a solid, it's the old phrase that you hear a lot, you're overthinking this. Uncertainty, a little bit of fear, not sure exactly what the outcome will be. When we talked about the attributes of a really good businessman or a businesswoman, the best tend to think of business as an adventure. We've talked about that. That's not necessarily relevant to this discussion, but that's the number one thing. Number two thing was they tend to be decisive. And that means they don't wait. If you've got all the information, if you've got a bet on the Super Bowl and the Super Bowl's over and you already know who won, the opportunity to make any money by betting on the Super Bowl is not there. So if you have all the information, the opportunity's gone. So that's waiting too long. Yeah. But people, to get adequate information, to simplify it well enough to get adequate information to make a decision yes or no is an appropriate amount. And people tend to go beyond that because they're uncertain. The good business people, to finish the three traits, the good business people make a decision based on bare minimum adequate information. And if they made the wrong decision, they make another decision, right? I don't know people who intentionally complicate things.
Yeah, I think it's subconscious in some ways.
I was going to say that. There are things I'm putting off right now. Had a discussion with Diane, and I'm thinking, yeah. I am aware that I am postponing a decision, and it's making me antsy.
Yeah.
Because I know I'm going to have to do something. I know the pros and the cons. No, I imagine I know the pros and the cons. I kind of don't like the cons, but I'm not sure if they're going to have. So I'm just delaying the decision.
Yeah.
I might, if I weren't the boss and somebody came back 2 weeks later, they might find out that I had delayed and not made a decision. Right?
Yeah.
Just because of uncertainty.
Well, I've been thinking about this, and there's three things that I think cause business owners to make things complex.
Okay.
And I think you're going to agree with these, but I could be wrong. I already kind of said this one, and you kind of just said it, but it's essentially they make things complex to avoid pain, right? That's the first one.
Yeah.
The pain of simplifying. I love the story you told about Mark Twain starting a letter with, I would have written you a shorter letter, but I didn't have enough time.
Right.
Because making things simple, condensing things down, making things concentrated can be painful. It can be hard. It can be challenging. It can take more time. It requires thought. And sometimes it's not that like they're necessarily making it complex on purpose. They had the process there because that's the process that worked, but it was complex. And now changing it to another simple format is where the pain is. I don't have time to work on that. I've got to do XYZ, or my team is going to blow up on me if I change that. And it's going to cause, I don't want to have those conversations right now. I just need to get through this season or whatever it is. Right. And so it's not necessarily that they're actively seeking out complexity. It's more so that they may be avoiding simplifying. And so they keep it
Right.
complex. Right. So that's the first one, complex to avoid pain. The next one is complexity to win the sale. Right. And that's where, man, we really need to win the job. And this is something we've never done before. And so but we really want to win it. So we're going to, go outside of our typical scope of work. And now the team that's doing production, you're doing it as a salesperson, and maybe you're doing some project management on it. But now the team's like, wait, like we never done it. How do we do this? And you're making a new process, and now it's complex. And so it introduces the need to be complex because you don't have clarity on how to do this because you've never done it before. Right. But it causes you to get complex because you want to win that sale. You want to win that big job. How many times do we hear about this whenever people are typically doing $50,000 jobs, and then they go and they win a $350,000 job? And how many problems do they run into on that, 7x size job? It's it's a lot of problems, and it a lot of times can make them go out of business or go broke or whatever it is, right? So complexity to win the sale. The last one is complexity to justify value, right? And this is one where I find myself doing it, right? And you had the saying that you can never add value, you can only add cost, or that was your dad,
Right.
or what was it? Is that right?
Well, they're not the only. Yeah, you as manufacturers or vendors or salespeople who are on the selling side, we cannot add value. We can
Yeah,
only add cost. We say, well, we'll throw this in, this, that. It doesn't matter. Uh,
yeah,
the customer adds value, you add cost.
right.
If you happen to meet, you make a sale.
There you go. Well, and I think we can
Simple.
even
It's
use
simple.
I think we can even use cost and complexity interchangeably here, right? Like the more complex things are, the more cost you have
Well,
associated with it.
the two classic. I did some design stuff. I guess it's too much of a story because I thought it was cool, and I really anyway did some stupid stuff. But the great examples are a Samsung controller for television and a microwave, right? I mean, maybe I'm telling on myself. I'm not the only one. The only way I need to use my microwave is punch the on buttons. Each time I punch it, I get 30 seconds more, right?
There you go.
I don't know how to do. I mean, it does air flow and temperatures and different. I don't know how to do any of that. If it had one button, turn on, turn off, I would
Yeah,
be happy. The Samsung
yeah.
controller or universal controllers, oh my God, where were we? I mean, this isn't even up to date. Oh, we were in an Airbnb, and there were 4 controllers in one television set. And I finally got the TV on, and I just wouldn't turn it off. I mean, I don't know. I have no clue. But one ran I don't know what they did. I don't know. But there are all these controllers, and you needed them all. Anyway,
Yeah.
so
Well,
they
look at the
think,
Apple TV remote. It's like
oh, I know.
four
It's the
buttons.
opposite. Well, the
Yeah,
center button, the tilt left, up and down, and
five
left and right.
buttons. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, that's design.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So yeah, I think that we make things complex or introduce cost to justify the value. I think something where this becomes present is maybe you think your margin's too good to be true, and so you're like, man, how can we like really do go above and beyond on this job or whatever it is, right? That might be an example. Or the example that I said before is like, man, I'm a business owner. I'm just sitting around all day. I gotta get my hands dirty a little bit so I can prove to my team that I still got it, or that I work hard too, and I got to stay late in the office because people are out late. You know, but at the same time, like you also want to be the business owner that gives people something to look forward to and something to strive for, right? So if you're a business owner, you're working until 8 o'clock at night in the office. That's not what your employees want to be doing. They expect you to like take more vacation and to leave early so that like, man, I want to be like boss one day. Right. So I don't know. I think those are the things that as I was thinking about this, how have I ever introduced complexity into my business? And it's those three. I'm introducing complexity to avoid pain because I'm completely just I do not want to simplify this. I do not want to go through the pain of working on improving this process right now. Or changing behavior is probably more realistic of what it is. Two, I introduce complexity to win a sale, right? I make it harder on my team because now we're going to do this extra thing that we've never done before so that we can win a sale. And then lastly, complexity to justify value. Do you agree with those or no?
No, I agree with those. I would add another one that occurs to me
Okay.
too, and that's bombast. But you just introduce complexity so that you look important.
Well, I think that's the justify value.
Well, yeah, justify value of yourself, not just your product. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. You're trying to
Well,
justify your value as the business owner.
I don't know that I can really ascribe a bunch of reasons for complexity. All those three are
Yeah.
true. All I can say is it's our enemy,
Okay. Why do you say that?
because complexity is extra steps, extra cost, extra time, period. It is those things. And if they're not needed, which is implied in the word complexity, if it's overly complex, then you've wasted all those resources and you have a less attractive product.
Yeah.
I wish I had memorized, but I haven't. Elon Musk talking about the order of putting in systems where
Yeah.
you try it and you test it and you verify it, make sure it's useful, then you automate it, something along those lines. He says what people actually do is they automate it and then install it and then don't run all the way through and find out at the last step, hey, we don't need to do that, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, complexity is just extra effort going into doing something. And it's implied by the word complex that, well, I'm stalling on that again. I think can be useful, optimized, and valuable and be complex. It's hard
Yeah.
for me to understand. But the way I'm using it, complexity is waste. And
Right.
that's what we're talking about is waste. And it's the enemy. So anytime you have a chance to take a step out, do it. It's another Elon Musk, the complexity of right-sizing your workforce. He says, let people go. If you don't have to hire 10% back, you didn't cut deep enough, right?
Yeah.
So,
He said, and it's not just with people, but he does that with anything. Like they were building XAI out in Memphis, and every company, Meta and OpenAI and Anthropic and all these other AI companies, including Jensen Huang at why am I blanking on the chip manufacturer? That's NVIDIA.
NVIDIA,
All of them were like, I can't believe they got up that fast. Like what took all of us 5 years to get to where we are, they did in like 8 months. And part of their process was, they're building out these data centers and this infrastructure of the data centers, and they're trying to improve the process of how it all connects, of how it all runs, of the models. And he applied the same principle. We're going to remove until it hurts, until we make a mistake because we removed too much. And then we'll go and we'll figure out what we need to add back.
yeah. And how they actually do that is something I got to study a little more because that's fascinating. How do
Yeah.
you do that?
It's above my head. And I don't know if you saw this, Facebook Meta is hiring and AI engineers from all of the other, big AI players with $100 million offers.
Hundred?
$100 million offers.
No, I have not.
It's like big signing announcements for NFL players or NBA players.
So you get 10 guys for $1 billion.
Yeah. I mean, that's nuts. Quick ad break to tell you a little bit about OpenPhone. If you're a contractor that has a single cell phone, you're probably inundated with text messages and phone calls, oftentimes that you can't be responsive to or that you can't answer at all. So what's the solution? You can buy another office line with Verizon or AT&T, and you can have an iPhone that is passed around from employee to employee, depending on who's on call. But what if there's a better way? What if there's a way that you can have all your phone calls recorded to go back and listen to later, transcribed with summaries so that you can get a quick glance at what happened during the phone call, and even connect it to your CRM where all your other customer information is. OpenPhone is the perfect solution because it does just that. You're able to add all the users you need to for whoever needs to have access to the lines for your company phone. And then you can also find all of the information you need at a glance with a centralized location for all phone calls and text messages with your customers. Whether it's for marketing, for sales, or for service, OpenPhone is the perfect solution for you and your team. If you're interested, we have an offer down the show notes from OpenPhone. Please click the link down the show notes, or you can see it here on your screen to be able to find more information about OpenPhone. Thanks for listening. Back to the episode. Going back to the complexity, I think that something he talks about in the article, Michael, and something that you're talking about is that our role as the owner is actually to fight for simplicity. It's to get things from complex to simple. And that's our entire responsibility. So I think about that more and more myself, and it's really challenging. It's simple to say that, right? But in practice, if I'm gonna go and like we apply Elon Musk's rule and let go of an employee or whatever it is, or multiple employees to reduce complexity, well, now like what happens to all the other process? It's like so much is intertwined that like doing that one action is going to make ripple waves across the organization. And what happens to our clients that we're used to working with so and so, and what happens whenever now I add this much to this person's plate? And I think that's why the complexity of it starts in the first place, but also is so hard to remove, is that the ripples too. I don't know what you think and what you see with your clients.
Well, there certainly are ripples when you decomplexify things, and it usually involves people. Not always, but that's a pretty common theme. I had 2 clients today where that was the main topic. I've got people working here who aren't really doing anything. Yeah, maybe that's an overstatement, nothing. But the idea that I don't want to let them go. This person said, we're softies around here. Okay, but is that the purpose of business, And that's an overly complex question. If you can reduce it to, are they contributing in excess of their cost? Yes. Keep them? No. Goodbye. But that's a little bit inhumane.
It probably is. I think it's more so, I don't know, the way that I approach this with my team. And thankfully we've been growing and not having to like cut. But going into working with us, I try to state that change is certain, that your role is never going to be the same here, that you're always going to be challenged to do new things, that you're going to be forced to maybe pivot every once in a while. I kind of give the analogy that we're building the plane while we're flying it. And I think that if you find people that have that perspective, they're okay with going from one thing to the next, One time, they're building widgets over here, but then things change because things get more simple in that area and you only need one person there instead of 3. Well, now help over here. I mean, I think you can use that as an opportunity as a business owner to promote people, to, reorg people, if you will. But yeah, I think that's kind of
that issue that you just talked about, moving people around, is a bit of a complex subject.
Maybe it's me as a business that are just making it complex.
No, lots of studies show that I can't quote them all, but they pay somebody an outrageous amount of money to dig a ditch, then come back the next day and fill it back in for the same amount. Do that a couple of times. Pretty soon they quit coming because they're not accomplishing anything.
Right.
And I have to jump back too. I'm correct what I said. I said letting people go, or I implied this, is inhumane. And what I meant to say, it is not inhumane.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, I think I said it is. It's not. And, it's not just that they're going to suffer insult, and I don't mean literally, but, pride or whatever, or even have a tough period of time finding another job. They need to be where they actually are contributors, and you need to protect your company and the people who remain from people who are draining resources without contributing. So just making that clear.
Yeah.
That doesn't make it easy to let somebody go, but
No, there's real, especially in a small business, there's real relationships there. And you were likely hiring the person in the first place because you knew them in some capacity,
right,
but not always. And, you're a bit closer. And yeah, especially when you're on the field with people, it can be real. Obviously, they've been there for a month or two. It's not as big of a deal. But when they've been there for years with you, it's tough. I mean, I'm talking to somebody right now who's had a couple of office administrators uh, for about a decade. And with AI, he needs them to embrace it because they need to be more efficient.
right,
And there's so many different things that AI can support in their administrative roles, but they still want to do data entry. They want to still run the numbers on the spreadsheet. They want to, manually put things into the CRM rather than have it automatically populate. And I mean, what do you do in that? How do you honor these people that have been there for a decade while also improving and simplifying your business?
well, that used to be done with a gold watch.
Yeah.
Now maybe a gold
Yeah.
iPad or something like that. No, I mean, that's another part of the complex subject is, but we have to simplify and have a policy as owners that we're not going to, well, I'm trying to think of the word. We're not going to, I don't want to say parasitic. It's not what I mean. We're not going to tolerate that. We'll have standards and you meet it, they're objective for the most part. And if you don't meet that standard, then you have to go somewhere else. And there are a lot
Yeah.
of people who think that is terrible, absolutely
Yeah, I don't
terrible.
know. I think it's all in how you frame it. I think there's also a way, what I told that guy is, hey, AI is not taking their job. Just like Excel didn't take the office administrator's job. And when was, you would know this, when was Excel first on the scene?
Oh, but there was VisiCalc before that. There was QuattroPro before that. Um, there were two others, probably four. So I don't know, 90?
90. Okay.
I
So
mean,
let's just say
yes,
it's 1990, Excel's on the scene. You know, Excel didn't take anybody's job, in my opinion, right? It's the person who knew how to use Excel that took the job away from the person who was doing math
right,
on hand,
right,
or on a calculator or whatever. It's the same way with AI. And I think you tell them like, hey, listen, I'm trying to incorporate AI so that you can move up, right? You don't have to do, basic arithmetic, but you can actually make decisions. You can start to do higher leverage tasks for our company. And ultimately, AI is not taking anybody's job. It's the people who are using AI that are going to take people's job. This is you using this in our company is going to allow you to have a better career. You may be at our company for the rest of your life, but you may not. Things change. And if you go out in the workforce and you know how to implement AI into your daily workflow, you're much more hireable than someone who doesn't use AI at all. So,
right.
yeah, that's how I would approach that conversation. I want to talk about, like, to end this, I want to talk about how we can create structure around simplicity. How we can start to reward simplicity in our organization for people simplifying things. How we can just constantly be thinking about simplicity, not as just an owner, but as a company, as a team. Have you seen any good examples out there of people doing this?
Well, I mean, that's typically what KPIs are, right?
Mm,
And most KPIs are generally, not all of them, ratios are generally measuring some sort of efficiency.
right.
Dollars of labor per dollar of revenue, something like that. So you can take those KPIs, which people have been doing for a long time and reward people for incremental improvement. That's one day. There was a PhD candidate I knew 30 years ago, more than that, 35 years ago, who did a study more than that, in the late 70s on the dollars of dollars of GDP per BTU of energy consumed. Okay, so how many dollars or pennies did it take to create and consume a certain amount of BTUs? And amazingly, what it showed us, this is incidental to this conversation. I mean, we've dropped to maybe 10% of, I haven't looked this stat up recently, of what we were in the 80s.
Of the 80s?
Of the 80s. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
I mean,
I wonder what it is of like the 1800s.
Oh, no, there's a great stat on that. This is off of that. When Matt Ridley, who's a professor from Oxford, wrote the book Rational Optimist, but he talks about time value. In other words, instead of talking dollars and trying to equate what's a dollar worth today to what it was a franc in France and King Louis in 1700, they just go, how long did a person have to work to gain a unit of something? Okay, and it started out, the thing he talked about was, the unit was an hour of candlelight. So that's one candle power for 1 hour. And in the early 1800s, 1700s, 1600s, a normal person had to work a day to get enough money to buy the makings or a finished candle, the tallow, the sheet, the wick, a day. In other words, most people could not afford an hour of candlelight. Okay.
Yeah.
Then we went up to whale oil, and I don't remember what it was, and kerosene lanterns, and I don't remember all the incremental ones, but they went to 2 minutes, an hour, or an hour down to 2 minutes. Today, it's like 2/1000ths of an hour to earn enough to pay for an hour's worth of one candle watt. It's an LED light that puts out 100 candles or however many. Anyway, it's nothing. It's nothing. It's free.
Yeah.
Especially with LED. And this is taking it out of the realm of complexity, but think about what the effect of that has had. Because in the whenever we were saying 1700, it got dark in Northern Europe at 4 in the afternoon. It stayed dark until 8, 10 in the morning. The rest of the time, it was just cold and dark. I mean, what are you going to do? You can't read, no television. What are you going to do?
Sleep.
Right? Sleep, I guess, or go fight wars or something. But, and as we got light, we got extra time in our day, the ability to be productive, on a cloudy day. You could still draw or write or whatever you had to do. And that's just that one resource, right? That's light.
Yeah.
And anyway, that's clear off the subject, but
no, it's good to think about. So you were talking about KPIs and how that's one way to introduce simplicity because it gives people straightforward. Are we hitting our KPIs or are we not?
Right. Or are they improving? Are they improving?
And I think one way to get really clear and simple is to focus on the end state. I was just having lunch with someone and they were talking about how I've made some of the services that we offer a little bit too complex. And they were saying like, you're making it complex to justify value. And really that's because you're focused on the process and you're not focused on the benefit to your audience, to the target customer. And if you just think about the end state, why do they want this service? What need do they have? If you can solve that, they don't care how you got there, as long as you're not like killing people or stealing or, as long as you're being ethical. So you're getting that. That's all they want. Right. So it doesn't matter what the process is. They just care about that end state. And so by going to just thinking about what the end state is, right? Then you can think about, as long as that's getting done, what's the simplest way to get there, right? If you're
Well,
drawing a map, just put 2 points on the map. We're here, we want to get here. What's the simplest way to get there? So
yeah, and that's what you're talking about. The very beginning of any business I work with, or anybody who works with their own business, should be to have a vision, which is
yeah,
the end state, which is that's where we're going. Don't get sidetracked. Is there a better way? And of
yeah,
course, sometimes a straight line isn't the fastest way because there are alligators on that, but it's hard
right,
to decide. But you're always making a decision about, is this taking me toward the goal or away from it? Toward the goal,
yeah,
do it. Away from it, don't do it.
yeah. Well, I think another way that you can reward simplicity outside of setting KPIs and making sure people hit them, right, is what Jeff Finney does, with what is it called, Genie, or what's his box that he puts on the wall where people can put suggestions
Oh,
of little
yeah,
improvements.
his genie. It's a
Genie,
genie box. Yeah.
yeah, he has a Genie box, and basically anybody can put in there one little improvement that they think they can make on the shop floor, and once a week or whatever it is, he opens it up and pulls the best idea, and then they do it. They make the improvement, and if your idea gets chosen and implemented, then you get a bonus or
Yeah,
whatever
I
it
think it's
is.
$100 at a traveling trophy
Yeah. So like
on the
Genie of the
shop
Week
floor.
or
Yeah.
whatever it is. I don't know. So that's another way of doing it, of just telling people, hey, what's something that you can make simple in your position or improve or make faster, or use less waste, whatever it is, right? Um, and then letting other people come up with ways to reduce complexity. So, um, man, Martin, anything else that you want to cover on this topic?
No, sir. I just want to reiterate that if we've confused anybody, we're sorry. The point is clarity. Clarity, and don't waste
Well, we
energy.
hope we made it more complex for our listeners.
Yeah. But
Um,
we sound more important. No,
we do.
yeah. And actually,
Oh, that's good.
if you realize that usually if you're complex and overblown, blowhard, you kind of don't sound more important.
No, you don't.
Could have
You
said
don't.
that much
Well,
more
before we make
easily.
it too complex, I'll shut us down
Yeah.
and make it
Before we get,
clear.
yeah.
Get clear. That's the focus. We said 3 ways that businesses typically make it complex. They do make it complex to win the sale. They make it complex to avoid pain, and they make it complex to add value. We won't make it any more complex to add any value to this
Right.
episode.
Right.
Have a great 4th of July weekend, Martin. This is going to go live well after that. But yeah, talk to you soon.
We will have had a good 4th of July by time this goes
Yes.
live. There you go.
There you go. All right. See ya.
You made it to the end of the episode, but before you go, if you found yourself thinking about growing your construction business while listening today, I want to share something with you. It's called our 24 Things to Hiring and Training the Perfect Executive Assistant for Your Construction Business. And it's a free guide that we've created. It's not theory, it's what we actually use to help contractors hire the perfect executive assistant. And really, we help you find ways to delegate over 50% of your current workload and get back 20 hours of your time every single week. You didn't start your construction business to just be doing admin work, to be buried in paperwork and endless admin tasks. This is the guide that shows you exactly how to find and train someone who can actually take all that weight off of your shoulders. So this is a real actionable, great PDF that has templates and processes. It's really, really great. And I want you to check it out, even just to get your feedback and how we can make it even more valuable. But I know that you're gonna love it. The link is in the show notes. Please download it. We'd love to see how much of an impact it makes on you and your business. Thanks for listening to the full episode. Check out the guide. It's free. No reason to hesitate. No reason to wait. Download it now. And before you go, I just want to ask for your gracious subscription to our podcast. So if you have 2 seconds, it means the world to us. Just subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or if you'd like our weekly newsletter delivered to your inbox whenever we release an episode, please subscribe in the show notes. Every week, we're talking about real strategies on how you can grow and build a profitable construction business that runs without you, so you can have less stress, more time, and more money. Click subscribe wherever you listen to the show, and thank you again for checking out the Cashflow Contractor. See you on the next episode.